Chuck Klein, Baseball Hall of Fame. This video, a recap of his career. Ken Arzone here, Vista, California, Thursday, March 6, 2025. Chuck Klein made the Hall of Fame. My question is, based on what? Let's look at his career, 1,753 games. Not enough for me. I like guys in the 2,500, 3,000 game category. 1,168 runs in 17 years. Not enough for me. I like guys in the 1,500s. He did have 6 seasons, 100 or more runs scored. His high, he had 158. He also had 152 one year. That was the beginning of his career. So those are good numbers for a run scored season. 2 seasons over 150 runs scored. Good. 2,076 hits. Not enough. Hall of Fame, you need 2,500 to 3,000. But he did have 5 years in a row, 200 hits. One of those seasons, 250 hits. Noteworthy. 398 doubles. One year he had 59 doubles. That's historic. 74 triples, 300 homers on the nose. How about that? 1,201 RBIs. Not enough. I need 1,500. He had 5 years in a row, 100 RBIs. One of those years, 170, which was top 5 production all time in one season. Altogether, 6 seasons, 100 RBIs. I like 10 seasons. 79 stolen bases, 601 walks, 521 strikeouts in 6,486 at-bats. Good ratio. Didn't strike out that much. 320 career batting average. I like that for a career. He had 11 seasons, 300 or better out of 17. That could have been the factor getting him into the Hall of Fame, 11 of them. One year he batted 386. He had a 368. He also had a 360. He had 7 years in a row over 300. On-base career, 379. I would have liked 400 or more on-base career. 543 slugging, that's good. I like 500 or better. 3,522 total bases. Should have been higher. Should have been around 4,000 to 5,000 range. He had 3 seasons, 400 or more total bases. That's good. Usually the goal of a baseball player is 300 total bases in a season. He had 3 of them with over 400. His high was 445. That was close to a record. Babe Ruth holds the record, 457 total bases one year. So Klein was in the top 5 as far as total bases one year of all time. Production. He had 2 other seasons, 300 total bases. So did Klein get in because of the batting average, 320 career? Could be. Also 11 seasons over 300. Also, he did something I pointed out in the early videos that I did with him. He had 5 years in a row. 5 years in a row. 5 for 5. What do I mean? I like 5 categories that you reach a benchmark in each category. First category is 100 runs scored in a season. That's one category. 2, 200 hits in a season. Second category. 3, 100 RBIs in a season or more. 4, 300 or better batting average. And 5, 300 or more total bases. Chuck Klein did all those numbers 5 years in a row. From 1929 through 1933. 5 years in a row, 100 or more runs scored, 200 or more hits, 100 or more RBIs, 300 or better batting average, and 300 or more total bases. 5 years in a row. That is a record. I looked it up. Has anybody else had 5 in a row like that? Five seasons in a row. Only 3 other guys had 4 seasons in a row. That was Paul Wainer, Al Simmons, and there was one other guy. It was, who was it? Paul Wainer, Al Simmons, and I believe, it was Bill Terry. Now, who holds the record with the most 5-for-5 seasons in those categories? 5-for-5 categories. Who holds the record for most seasons doing it? Lou Gehrig. 8 times he went 5-for-5 in those categories that I mentioned. Runs scored, total hits in a season, 100 RBIs, 300 better batting average, and 300 more total bases. Lou Gehrig did that 8 times. There's some other guys that did it 6 or 5 times, 6 times. How about Chuck Klein setting the record? 5 in a row. I like that. Also, I looked it up. This was incredible. Here it is. In the 1930 season for Chuck Klein was one of the greatest offensive seasons of all time, as far as those 5 categories. In fact, he is number 1 in those 5 categories as far as total score. What do I mean? I added up the runs scored he had that year, the hits, the RBIs, the batting average, and the total bases, all as one number. The number came out to be, I have it here. Let's see. The number was 1,409 points. Score. What do I mean? He had 158 runs scored. Okay. Add that to the 250 hits. Add 170 RBIs. Add 386 batting average. And add 445 total bases. That comes out to be, I've got it here, 1,409 score. Number 1 all time. Did you know that? Chuck Klein. As far as those 5 categories. Who is number 2? Rogers Hornsby in 1922 had a year. His total score was 1,394. So he's number 2. Who's number 3? Babe Ruth in 1921 season. What a year that was. He's number 3, 1,384. Okay. Number 4 on the list. This was interesting. Hugh Duffy. Remember he batted .440 one year? In 1894, he has a score of 1,356. So he's number 4. And who's number 5? I looked it up. Lou Gehrig. He had a score of 1,360. Did I say Duffy was 1,356? My mistake. Number 4 on the list, I've got it written down here, Lou Gehrig in 1927 had a score of 1360. So he's number 4. 1927 season for him, he got to 1360. And then Duffy, 1894, got to 1356. My mistake. Okay, I've got the numbers here. I've got it written down in different spots. Who's number 6? Jimmy Fox had a score of 1335. And then you've got Hack Wilson had a score of 1324 in 1930. Fox was in 1932, Wilson. Then you've got a guy named Bill Terry. You've heard of him, right? 1930 season had a score of 1315. And then a guy named Ty Cobb. He had a score of 1310 in 1911. I'll recap it. 5 for 5 in those categories. Runs scored, 100. Hits, 200. RBIs, 100. Plus. Batting average, over 300. Total bases, over 300 total bases. The guy that had the highest score in one season all time was Chuck Klein. 1930 season, he got 1409 if you add those 5 categories of what he produced. 1409, number 1. Roger Hornsby, 1394. Babe Ruth, 1384. Hugh Duffy, Lou Gehrig, 1360. Hugh Duffy, 1356. Jimmy Fox, 1335. Hack Wilson, 1324. Bill Terry, 1315. And Ty Cobb, 1310. Incredible. These are their best seasons and what their score was in those 5 categories. What do you say? How about Chuck Klein? Now, he makes the Baseball Hall of Fame with only 2,076 hits. A little dubious there. But I think what did it was the 11 300 batting seasons, and of course that one remarkable year where he had 250 hits, 170 RBIs. He bats 386 and has 445 total bases, along with 158 runs scored. What a year! That's top 5 season of all time. All right, I'm done with him. What I like to do at the end of these, covering a guy, is to recap the guys that I have covered so far, as far as looking at every box score in every season. Starting with episode 1001. Babe Ruth, Ty Cobb, Lou Gehrig, Stan Musial, Tris Speaker, Rogers Hornsby, Ted Williams, Tony Gwynn, Ed Delante, George Sisler, Jesse Burkett, Joe Jackson, Willie Keeler, Billy Hamilton, Harry Heilman, Joe DiMaggio, Bill Terry, Lefty O'Doul, Dave Orr, Dan Brothers, Pete Browning, Nap Lajoie, Al Simmons, Sam Thompson, Cap Hansen, Jimmy Fox, Honus Wagner, Willie Mays, Henry Aaron, Hank Greenberg, Hugh Duffy, Eddie Collins, Paul Wainer, Lloyd Wainer, Chuck Klein, and who's next? There's a guy on the list. I could pick anybody, but I like to go with the guys 300 or better batting average. And I like to go with guys who have an interesting career that makes me curious. Have you heard of Sam Rice? 322 career batting average, good. But he did something that nobody else in baseball history has done. He made one of the biggest mistakes in baseball history. What did he do? He was 13 hits shy of 3,000 hits for a career. He had 2,987. The mistake he made was he stopped playing. And in his last year, it was in 97 games. All he had to do in his last year was play about 10 more games to get to 13 more hits and end up with 3,000 hits. But he retired, and the excuse he gave was, well, I didn't know how many career hits I had. Would you call that the biggest blunder in baseball history? I do. You don't stop playing baseball with 2,987 hits. 3,000 is a historical, magical number. You go for 3,000 hits. Sam Rice, what is the matter with you? Anyway, I'm going to cover this guy. Let's look at his career. He made the Baseball Hall of Fame. Let's see how he did it. I will talk to you later. Sincerely and respectfully, I'm out.